Hello everyone! So I made my model in under 14 days, and I did that without really being an artist, with no clue what I was doing, and also it didn't cost me anything to make the model and get it set up and everything. So I'm going to talk about that entire process today. I figure some people might enjoy it, and some people might be looking for that kind of information, maybe an aspiring VTuber or someone just considering it, the thought of it, wondering what would be the kind of holdbacks or problems or setbacks they may encounter. So we're going to go talk about that. Now, first we're going to cover the process and how I got there. So if you don't like some of the stuff I'm talking about, I'm going to leave some timestamps so you can pick and choose. But we're going to start with how I got to that point, how I did the design and creation of the artwork itself, and then we're going to get into the rigging and animation portion. Then we're going to go even further and talk about how I improve the model later. As you can see with my mouth, it's very reactive. This is because I installed VBridger. That was another week, even though it took me far less than a week to do that improvement. And then we're going to talk about what I'm going to do afterwards with this model, how far I'm going to push it, what's my problems with it and everything else, and what to look for in the future. So this is all going to be about my model and how I managed to make it within 14 days, how I managed to improve it, and where we're going to go from there. So if you're ready to learn more about, well, model making in general with VTubers, as well as my model, let's get started. So first and foremost, when it comes to making a model, you have to have a concept. Where does my concept come from? Well, before being a VTuber, I made Final Fantasy XIV videos, and I used my character as kind of a cutout for a lot of things. My friends refer to it as cutout Darius, so that's kind of the origin of the appearance. Now, I kind of felt stuck in Final Fantasy XIV content, and my kind of appearance was, me. This is kind of what I was building up with this channel, and I felt the only way I could possibly break free from being only able to do Final Fantasy XIV content with this little cutout would be if I had, salvaged my identity with like a VTube model or something. Because I had over 600 subscribers, I kind of felt if I just tried to go, hey, doing everything else completely unrelated differently, it would just kind of really not be good for the channel or the people and stuff like that. But as many who probably stuck around with me knew, that still wouldn't be a good thing because, well, I ran out of content to make with Final Fantasy XIV. The game kind of went downhill for a lot of people. Everyone I knew stopped playing it, and really the whole thing I made tutorials on was pointless. So I had this fantasy on, oh man, it'd be so great if I, came into a lot of money and paid someone to make a model or something like that. That kind of thought. Anyways, a few years later, someone who I actually played Final Fantasy XIV with came to me and it's like, I'm going to start VTubing eventually. Check it out. I'm like, wow, that's so cool. And of course, I started fantasizing about the concept again. Now, I didn't believe I had any means or anything, ability, no knowledge, nothing. I had no clue what I was doing. I didn't know how I could even do it. I didn't have the skill to do it. How could I become a VTuber, right? Well, about a few weeks later or something, they asked me after that, hey, why don't you join me for VTubing? I'm like, all right, I'm sold. I'll try. So I started creating a design. And yeah, I can't draw faces. We'll get to that in a minute. But the kind of concept design came forward from that. But as you can see, if you look very closely, it's the same robe. Now this is the design about a year and a half, maybe even 2 years ago or something. But it's an older design I have. I think I saw that I drew it in 2023. So I drew the robes at least, right? The concept for the upper body torso design and everything. So that's where the whole concept comes from and how it worked. But anyways, a few months ago, about August, maybe July, they come to me like, all right, it's go time. So I took another crack at it. And, well, that's where we get into the next part. The model itself and the artwork. So, making the model. As I said before, I'm not really an artist. I still have some like slight art background. I had art classes in high school, even college and stuff, and art minor. I tried to do graphic design and stuff. I didn't do great. I'm a dropout for a lot of stuff because I'm not very good at content that I'm not interested in. However, fantasizing about being a VTuber for 4 years is a great way to have some interest. So I start trying to draw my model again. See, the old design was it was in 5,000 by 5,000 pixels. It was a huge drawing. And I thought I could shrink it down. I needed bigger was better or something like that. But there were limitations because I was doing the free version of Live 2D Cubism. There's a lot of limitations and stuff, but it wasn't that bad. So anyways, I had that old design, but they told me, yeah, that's too big. Gotta draw again, do it again. You can't, like, downsizing that will never work, they basically told me. So I'm like, okay. So I start trying to draw again, trying some different aspects and seeing if I could make like a better look. And trying to do shading and stuff, and kind of went back to an old shading style of mine. And yeah, it didn't look right. I looked at it again after doing a little bit with hard shadows and stuff. I had no idea what I was doing. No one could tell me. No one told me. And every time you look up online about how this stuff works, they just send you tutorials on like eyeballs and stuff. I don't have a lot of work on my eyeballs, as you can see. This is a design choice, by the way. Anyways, so I had no clue. I wasn't doing that great. So I looked at my old model again. Yeah, that one with that face. And I was like, you know what? I like the robes. I'm taking them back. So I tried to downsize them. And as you can see, it worked great. Now, how did I do the rest of the design? As I said before, I cannot draw faces. So I tried again and again and again, and it was all a failure. So in a kind of sense of self-depreciating humor, I got a friend and like streamed it for him. I was like, hey, check it out. I can't draw faces. And the only thing I was able to do at that point was the shape looked okay, at least under the robes. Don't take my hood off, it's hideous. Anyways, I was telling him, check it out. I cannot draw lips. So what I was doing was I was using my tablet, drawing lips in Control Z, and every time I draw one that looked right, I do that. And I did like a couple of times because you can really draw quickly with a mirror tool and Control Z for attempts of something that's just so simple like lips. And I managed to successfully draw the lips you see before you. They looked great. And I was like, wow, I did it. Well, guess what? I can't draw beards. So I tried a few different techniques and I succeeded. It is now a joke about me saying, hey, guess what? I can't do this. And then I would instantly like go ahead and do it. Now, my entire artistic programming and stuff, working with the whole programs and stuff, I had done the robes initially in Paint Shop Pro. If you have no idea what that is, there's a reason. It's like discount Photoshop. Anyways, I was introduced to a program called Krita. Krita is free. Krita is like in between Paint Shop Pro and Photoshop, and it was beautiful. However, the lines are by default anti-aliased. What does that mean? It means my drawings bleed. So I can't make it's like a transparency on the outside of your lines to make them kind of like blend and blur into the edges. And I didn't know about much of this or whatnot. So in truth, my model is terribly done. The mouth could not be done properly, and the skin is stretched on. Now, about that. So masking and stuff is a technique within the animation program. That's why I kind of like worked around it. But the best way to explain it was right around the outlines of a lot of this stuff, the face coloration, everything, it's kind of, how to put it? There's a transparency outline just before the outline. And so everything bleeds through and it's terrible. And I had to do so much work just to fix that problem because my model wasn't set up properly because I have no idea what I'm doing. Now, on top of that, making the mouth. A lot of people probably like the way the mouth works. It's all manually done to an outrageous degree, and it's jury rigged. So, looking at my model, looking left and right, that's not a very far distance. I can do way better now. But see, the way I got through this was I cut a hole into the skin instead of using proper masking layers. Again, I had no clue. No clue at all at what I was doing. No one teaches you this stuff properly. That's the problem with it, with making a model and stuff. So I jury rigged everything and like had to make the model like look good and everything else. But for the most part, for the model design, we'll get into the animation later, but just know the drawing aspect is terrible. Now there's a few things that were added later to the model. I had to redraw and add to it and stuff. Like the nose was not initially added because animations for looking up were done. Nostrils were the only way to make it look normal. Then, of course, with the mask and stuff, I realized, hey, if I had an undershadow, it looked great and more realistic when I turn. And it looks great. I did a lot of shadow stuff, but the robes were something I did years ago. But obviously, I tried to redraw them, it didn't work, and I just imported an old design. And that worked great. And that's basically how I came out with the design for the model. Now, all this stuff is jury rigged. If I had to redraw this model, I could do so much better. But again, I had to cut out certain things and work with certain things, so it didn't work out that great. But, well, we'll go for that now, because that's enough talking about the drawing of the model. This is just how it was drawn. This is how it came out with and stuff. And also, just to finish things up, if you look at the head a little bit, around the outside of the face and everything, there's a outline shadow, to give an idea of curve. When I added that in, the model just came to life. It was incredible. But that's enough about the model. Let's talk about the animation. Or, well, rigging. Rigging, or animating to some. This is the lifeblood of live 2D model making. How was it done? How does it work? Well, for starters, you only need a forward-facing model. All the parts are just separated into different layers, and you work on animations from there. If you want to learn more about how VTuber models work, I'll make a video on that later, but we're just going to talk about how I got to my model process. So, my model doesn't have things like hair. I don't have big booba, and honestly, it's just a chest up kind of model for the most part, just a torso. So there's not a whole lot going on too. I picked plain robes, a mask to hide the eyes. So you have to do things to try and catch people's attention with what we consider like, what's the word, parallax? Different objects moving at different speeds and directions. So instead of hair, we have the robe. I mostly hand animated most of this stuff individually for each side because it's asymmetrical. Now, I told everyone before I started animating that I was going to take to it like a fish in water. Oh, and I did. I got addicted to it. I had no idea what I was doing, but I got addicted to it. You had to know about part orders, masking proper. Like I said with the mouth, there's a hole in where the face is. And the lips have a lot of skin to cover all that stuff up. And oh, it's awful. It's awful. But I did a lot of animations and stuff to, well, cover everything up. I had to check every single angle to make sure that there wasn't a pixel showing in that little whole gasp of my face. Now, the first thing I really worked on with animations was the mask. And figuring out that you can kind of make it pop out a little bit. Kind of get that more of that like bird facial look, with the beaking kind of style, And then I found out that when the robes come over the head in so many ways, it really makes things come alive, really makes it enjoyable to watch. And that's the big thing I focused on. Once you get the XY done with a model for the head, the rest just kind of falls in place. The eyes are a simple measure and matter and stuff like that. There's not a lot of work to it. Now, the mouth, obviously, that's where a lot of work can go if you're terrible at it, like me. We'll get to the advanced mouth stuff later. But I had no idea what I was doing with the mouth. No one explained the opening of the mouth versus the grinning and frowning parts and everything else. So I had no clue what I was doing. I watched so many videos on the rigging process that I had, gosh, I'm going to tell you guys a big secret right here, okay? This is the most important part you can ever see in this entire video if you're considering becoming a VTuber or making VTube models. Understanding the process, understanding what in the world I was trying to achieve or do, that cost me 80 to 95% of my time. In other words, if I had any idea what I was doing with my model, especially the animation, and honestly, understanding what you're doing with the animation is what causes a lot of problem in the model creation, because you're creating models that animate, that rig up to your tracking and everything. But that was 80 to 95% of my time. So if I had any idea what I was doing, I could have made my model as is within 2 days. Now, I did put my nose to the grindstone, so to speak, and lose a lot of sleep on it. But I got really into it. The more my model looked good, the more I was into it. And everything you can see here is very simple. The artistic design and style was very simple. So animating it worked great. Now, as far as animations go, the big thing that really sells it and makes it easy was I separated my shadows from my design. Even the highlights are separated a lot of times. So that is something that makes it a lot easier, because then you're just moving things around, you're masking it on it. It only works on the object that it's going to cast a shadow on. So you don't have to worry about it messing up out of focus. And that just worked great. So I learned and I learned and I learned and I learned and I learned. And I made my model finally. And all that rigging process and work, I learned so much, but I really took to it. So much so that I continue to do animation and even make models. I kind of hate making models a little bit, but I still do it. I like making assets and stuff, but I got a lot better with it. And we'll go over that in a minute too. But anyways, after finishing the animation portion, I just started going to the tracking, and it worked great for the most part, but people told me one problem I had. My mouth looked awful. In other words, it didn't fit. It didn't follow my voice at all or anything. Everything was off. And so I decided to go pro. I installed VBridger. And that's our next part. Modifications and improvements. So, as I said, my mouth didn't look great. So I was going to make it look amazing. And as you can see, it kind of turned out quite well. So I installed VBridger, and I had no clue how to get it to work. So I used my iPhone for my webcam, basically. Cost a little bit of money to get the tracking going on that for more than 10 minutes, but VTube Studio on that, it's not that expensive. It's great. If you have an iPhone 11 or more, you can use your iPhone as a camera. It's great. But I have to, apparently iPhone has the best face tracking software ever called Arcit, and it tracks a lot of facial features. So I got this little program on Steam called VBridger. You use it to gain more data points for your mouth so that you can get more realistic mouth stuff going. Then I just followed a tutorial to get the mouth bits done. That was one by Cutie Dragon. She does great work on that stuff. And all I did was just follow how it was done for the most part. Still made it on free Live 2D, mind you. So my model still follows the same patterns of a free model. So what you see before you can be done for no cost. But anyways, back to the whole VBridger thing. Apparently, it only connects with Wi-Fi. I connected to Live 2D with my cable directly from my computer to my iPhone. So I was doing it very easily before, and now I needed Wi-Fi connection. I'm on cabled internet, people. But thankfully, I had been trying to play games on my Switch online with friends a while back. So I have this kind of a internet Wi-Fi adapter on my computer. And your computer, by default, I believe, can create a mobile hotspot. Took me a while to figure that out, long time ago. So I already had the knowledge. So I eventually turned on the mobile hotspot and connected my VBridger that way. And it finally worked. And it worked well. I'm so thankful, guys. I hate Wi-Fi. It's so difficult for me at times. But anyways, I got it working. That took 6 days. I did my VBridger animations in one sitting, man. One sitting. That's all it took. I spent a week stressing over getting that program to work and trying to get that through a cable and all these other measures, using ChatGPT and AI and stuff to kind of like give me ideas on how I can do it. They're all stupid. But I got it working, and so we now have a cable connection for the Live 2D, and bringing in, and I got it working, okay? We're using cable connection and Wi-Fi, but I got it connected and working, and I installed VBridger. Now, understand this. The quality of how my mouth looks isn't just my mouth. It's the beard. The beard sells it. This little low quality beard. And why? Because I animate the beard every time I animate the mouth. That way the beard doesn't get in the way or do weird things. And because it moves with the mouth, that gives you the idea of stretching. So my model went from kind of a lower middle grade to an upper middle grade, or even like middle high grade model, just from the face alone, I think. So it really improved. So that's what happens when you improve upon it. Now, I did do a little something later just because I wanted to. And that's this little line you'll see on the mask just to be a little light line. And I think it adds a little bit of depth and makes it look better. But other than that, I haven't really improved the model. Well, I haven't improved it in a way that you have seen yet. I've got a few things coming. And that's what we're going to talk about next. What's in store for the future with my model? Now we've talked about how I got here. So what's in the future? What can I do now? I've spent all that time learning to make a model, but that was August. So, and July, honestly. August and July. So it's even further back. But it's been a while since then, right? What I've been up to since then? I made another V2 model for someone else. You'll see me playing with him. That would be the Silent Mime guy. I'm ashamed of creating that monstrosity. There's some evil this world does not deserve or need, or... That's fun, at least. Anyways, I made his model. I worked on the X and Y turn rates and additional animations and modeling for the other two people of our team of Pipe 19. That's Bug and Rat, mind you. So I've worked on everyone's model. 2 of them are made by me. Furthermore, after that, I was even asked for more animations and assets and stuff by the Rat, which I've made. You will see those at a later date. I am so proud of the asset I created for him. I also gave him animations and other things. Oh man, it's been a roller coaster, guys. I've learned so much. And also, believe it or not, my 5th model that I've worked on, 3rd model that I made, you've been looking at this entire time. This background is a live 2D model that I used to create a video that's 10 minutes looping. So the on-air sign, the fans, the fluttering paper, the TV monitors, the computer, the aircon system. All of that is my work, my current level of skill with live 2D work and stuff. So you can see I like to do objects even more than people. So assets became my specialty. So this entire backdrop is a model made in Live 2D and animated there to loop and stuff like that. I basically created an animation with that and did it that way. So that's my skill level. But I haven't gone on what's next, right? So let's talk about that. First off, working on my mouth a little bit more. I've noticed that it's not opening at times in certain videos and stuff, and I don't know if it's just my camera not seeing it or I'm just kind of like mumbling with my mouth a little bit, you know, just barely talking and stuff like that. You know how it is. You barely open your mouth and that could be a problem. I'm not sure on a lot of stuff, but I've kind of tweaked it a little bit before this video to make that improvement, but that's not what you care about. That's just tracking. Anyone can work on tracking. What am I doing for my model? Well, I'm going to tweak the movements of the robes a bit, some of the body movements, make it more realistic and work better. I've learned so much with this stuff, guys. I'm going to improve the shading and shadows a little bit by making them get larger and smaller, maybe more and less opacity based on distance. There's a lot of things I do with shadows now that I'm much more proud of that aren't like with when I made this model. I'm also going to do something I didn't think I'd ever do. I'm adding animations and eyelids. The eyes aren't changing, by the way. They're just going to get darker and maybe bigger or smaller, depending. I'm going to tweak the eyes a little bit, add some emotion so you guys can notice things when I'm up close. On top of that, and the reason that this is kind of an important thing to talk about, I'm working on hands. Hands! That's right. I'm going to improve my model drastically soon. I'm going to add in hands and arm movements. I'm going to be alive. I want the rest of my body to kind of like work like my head does, you know? I want to be alive. And so I'm going to work on that too. I'm also considering working on more other things for other people's and VTubers and stuff like that. I really like making assets, and I kind of wonder if I could make some that can work on anyone's model. So I'm the cult guy. I'm going to work on cloaks and robes and stuff eventually. Maybe some other things and some fun stuff I can animate. I want to work on so much, and I might even put them on a store or something. So I'm going to work on my own branding for making model assets and stuff. Also, if anyone watching this happens to be a VTuber starting off, talk to me, leave some comments. I would love to give advice on my journey into this aspect, what's it like, etc. And, you know, it's really not that hard to make a VTube model. It seems hard. And if you have new art abilities, I kind of learned a few cheats that really make things pop out. I learned a lot of tricks with the animation and rigging. You don't have to make eyes if you have a mask. And if you have a face mask, you don't have to do the mouth. There's other techniques and tricks. Being unorthodox gives you so many abilities and stuff like that. So if anyone out there is watching to the end of this video and you're curious on making your own VTube model or the process or difficulties, or you're wanting some assets or something, I'm the guy to talk to. I'm not some 100,000 subscriber guy that can't be reached ever or has to worry about things. I like coming up with ideas and helping people and stuff. So reach out. I am here to help. I've already gone through my journey, and I would like to watch other people go through their journeys too. Be fun. So that's about all I have to talk about this. That's how I made my model in 14 days, and in 7 days I added VBridger. But just like the VBridger, I spent like 6 days of those weeks, 90% of my time was not having any clue how this works. VTubing is complex. It is not complicated, but the tutorials do not help simplify and give you the basics. And if anyone wants me to teach you about the basics, I have a history of teaching people. It's my most watched videos and stuff. as with Final Fantasy XIV, but who's to say that you can't become a VTuber too with your own abilities that you didn't even know you had? After starting becoming a VTuber and working on models and stuff all the time, I became kind of obsessed. I love it. But I got really good with it too. And I'm going to start improving my model soon to show you guys how good my skill has gotten. My model, however, will never reach 1.0 because of this gaping hole in my mouth that you can't see. Well, I mean, technically not with my mouth, you can't see it. But it's not masked. So I can't push my XY better. If I could, I would call the model 1.0 after that. But I can't. My model's incomplete. Its jury rigged is terrible. So one day we'll go straight to 2.0 instead of 1.0. You'll see brand new design. Well, I mean, it's going to be the same stuff, but it's going to be better. It's going to be colorful, wonderful, well designed. But that's another thing for another day. If you guys enjoy this content or more, leave a comment and tell me how you want to see more. Like, comment, subscribe, all that stuff. Mostly comment. I like talking with people. I'm very bored and lonely, guys. All right? Just comment, please. Anyways, as always, until next time.